As an 11 handicap golfer with an average swing speed, I am the target market for a player's distance iron. Now fortunately on my channel in 2024, I've had the opportunity to test most of the latest released golf clubs, and in my hands right here are my top 5 favourites. And in this video I'm going to count them down from 5th to best, telling you about the pros and any cons with each of these irons to help you work out which should be on your test list and maybe which one you should just go out and buy. Right, let's start the countdown with iron number 5. So coming in at number 5 is the Ping i530. Now the things that I like about this iron, first of all, are its distance. This is the longest player's distance iron that I've tested in 2024. Every single time I test it, I average over 160 yards with it, and it's 5 to 8 yards longer than all of the other irons on this list when I look at all of the data that I've captured. Other things that I like about this iron are the looks of it. I think it's got that slightly confidence-inspiring look that we want in a player's distance iron while still having the appearance of a blade. So it's got a slightly thicker top line than a blade would have and a little bit more offset, but otherwise it will have lots and lots of bag appeal. The final thing I really like about it is it does feel forgiving whenever I've tested it, and that is typical of most Ping irons. So what are the cons from this iron and why is it only number 5? Let me tell you. So first of all, and probably the most important reason why this is only number 5 on my list, the Ping i530 has delivered the lowest amount of spin in all of the testing that I've done on it compared to the other irons on my list. And as a golfer in this category, I do want a little bit more spin out of this iron than what I'm actually getting. Now the way that Ping compensate for that is they do offer 2 other loft options in the Ping i530. There is a power lofted spec for people who need even more distance out of it, but the spec that appeals to me is the retro lofted spec that takes these irons and makes them a couple of degrees weaker and very similar to the rest of the irons that are in this test list. Now I do think if I could get my hands on that set of irons and got that little bit more spin that I wanted to see, this iron would certainly be a lot higher up on my list because I love Ping golf clubs. I play them in the top end of my bag, and like I've said already, they are incredibly forgiving. The other couple of reasons why this isn't higher on my list as well is compared to the other irons that we're about to speak about, I don't think it feels as good as those irons or sounds as good as those irons. Now those are 2 things I could certainly get over if the performance was as good as I needed it to be, but it is the reason why it's only number 5 on my rankings. These are the best feeling player's distance irons from Ping that I've ever had the luxury of testing, so they are making massive strides in this area. They just don't feel as good as some of the others that are yet to come on my list. So without further ado, let's move down to number 4. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Coming in at number 4 is the Callaway Apex Ai200. Now there's a couple of reasons why this is on my list. First of all, this iron feels absolutely incredible. I really enjoy hitting it every single time I pick it up. The second reason for me is I do think this is the best iron available on the market today for combo setting. And what I mean by that is it blends in with all of the rest of the Apex range absolutely perfectly. So if you're a better player wanting to use these to help you out in the long irons at the part of your bag, or if you're maybe a higher handicap golfer who wants the Ai300 at that part of the bag and these in your shorter irons, they are going to look absolutely fantastic and blend absolutely perfectly. And it is therefore the most versatile iron on this list in my personal opinion. So what about the cons? That's the best shot I've hit yet. What a golf shot. So I can only offer you 2 cons with this iron. That's how good it truly is. The first of which is I would like to see a little bit more spin out of it compared to some of the other irons that we're about to talk about in the top 3 positions, but it doesn't spin as low as that Ping i530, and therefore it's not too much of a concern. I would just like to see a couple of more 100 revs out of it whenever I've been doing my testing. The second thing, and this will be down to personal preference, is the top line is a little bit thicker on this iron compared to some of the other irons in my list. Some of you will absolutely love how confidence inspiring that is. I just think there's a couple of other irons that are a little bit sleeker, and that really is how much I'm nitpicking on this iron because I do absolutely love it. Now before I reveal the iron that's come in 3rd place, I just want to tell you my criteria that I've used for ranking these irons. Now unlike in the game improvement category where price is a big fluctuator between one iron to the next, that isn't the case in the player's distance market where prices are very, very similar except for the iron that's come in 3rd place. Now if I wasn't to include price in my criteria, this iron still would be in my top 5, but it might have been 4th or 5th position instead, but I still think it is one of the best player's distance irons available on the market today. As a result, the big determining factor for my top 5 rankings is all of the data that I've been able to capture every single time I've tested each of these irons over the last 12 months, and on most of these irons I've tested them 2 or 3 occasions at least, and I've then overlaid that my subjective view on looks, feels, and just ultimately which irons I've enjoyed testing the most and just got the most enjoyment out of when I've been giving them a hit. As a result, this is my ranking. There is some subjectivity in it, and your results might be a little bit different, but that isn't to say that my rankings are right and yours are wrong. It's just a case of trying to give you some data of which irons I think are right at the top end of the market and that you should maybe consider testing, and some of the pros and cons of each of them. Right, let's reveal that iron that's come in number 3. Feels great. So the iron grabbing the bronze medal position this year is from a manufacturer who I believe have had their comeback season in 2024. Now, I've had the luxury of testing most of the brand new equipment from them on my channel this year, and every single piece has seriously impressed me, just like these irons, because they deliver performance as good as anything else on the market at 20 to 30% cheaper. So which iron is it? It's the Wilson Dynapower Forged. Now, just to talk about that performance and bring it to life for you a little bit in front of me, ball speeds are as good as any other iron on my testing. Distances can keep up with everything else on this list except for that Ping i530. Spin rates are better than the Ping i530 and the Callaway Apex Ai200 in my testing, and that ball flight is as strong as anything else on this list. So what you're going to be thinking to yourself is, Luke, why do we not stop the video right here, and why do we not just go out and buy a set of these irons? Now, you absolutely could, and I would definitely think that's not a bad thing to do, but let me tell you the couple of things to consider and why this isn't in the top 2 on my list. After I've just hit that golf shot, forget about the cons, just go out and buy them. But seriously speaking, there are a couple of things to consider. First of all, the design of this iron maybe has this little bit of sole design that won't appeal to you as much as all of the other irons on my list, where all of the tech is a little bit more hidden away in the golf club. But again, you can't see that when it's down at address. It's just something you'll notice when they're in your golf bag, and that will put a couple of people off. The only other thing that I can actually think to call out about this iron as a potential con is, again, just like that Callaway Apex Ai200, it has a slightly thicker top line, but because of the construction of this golf club, it's quite a high gloss finish. It probably does stand out a little bit more than a couple of the other irons on my list. That is all I can call out about these irons, but at the price point they're at, they're an absolute bargain. I would definitely recommend that you give them a test if you get the opportunity. Right, let's move up to the runners-up position. It's the Taylormade P790. There's a couple of reasons why I love this iron so much. First of all, the strength of its ball flight. It's the highest launching, highest peak height, strongest land angle iron on my testing whenever I've picked this club up. And as someone who naturally doesn't hit the golf ball too high, I'm always searching for a little bit more launch and height on my irons, and this absolutely delivers it. And it has probably got a slightly more traditional loft by a degree or so versus some of the others on the list, and that could be the reason why. The second thing I really love about this iron is, even though it's delivering that strong ball flight, it still has good spin rates, good ball speeds, and some good overall distance that makes it an absolutely fantastic choice for so many golfers. So why hasn't it grabbed the top spot? So good. So good. So there's 2 cons that I can come up with for the Taylormade P790, or things for you to consider. First of which is the design of the sole. Much like that Wilson, you do see a little bit of the tech at the bottom of this iron, and it therefore maybe doesn't look as nice in the bag as some of the other options on my list. But again, we really are nitpicking with both the Wilson and this club to pull out that slight subtle weakness to it. The only other thing I can call out is, whilst it's a strength for me and why it's scored so high on my list is the strength of that ball flight, for some people who already hit the golf ball quite high, it might be too high for you, and particularly if you play a links golf course and you need to keep the ball knocked down, it might be a little bit harder to do that with this iron compared to some of the other irons on my list. That's how much I need to nitpick to call out something about this iron, because otherwise I absolutely love it. So which iron has actually beaten this and come into the top spot? Let's find out. Now, before I announce the iron that's come in first place, I do need to give you one final caveat. For an iron to make it onto my top 5 list, I have to have had the opportunity to test it in the last 12 months. Now, unfortunately, it's really difficult for me to get my hands on left-handed Strixon and PXG golf clubs, and if you work for one of those manufacturers and want to send them through for me to test, I'd absolutely love for you to do that, and then maybe I can revise my rankings afterwards. I've also yet to film my review of the brand new Mizuno JPX range, and as you know, if you've followed my channel for some time, I currently game the previous version of those irons, the JPX 923 Forged, and I absolutely love them. So it could be a case that when I film that review at the start of 2025, I might revise my rankings when I've had an opportunity to give that iron a hit. But as we stand right now, these are my top 5 based on all the testing that I've done. So let's reveal that winning choice. And that is why this golf club is number 1 on my list. So my favourite player's distance iron for 2024 is the Titleist T200. I think this iron is almost perfect. It's such a good player's distance iron. Now, before I tell you my reasons why, let's start with a caveat. I had the original version of the Titleist T200 a couple of years ago, and I was massively underwhelmed with them and changed out of them quite quickly. However, with this time round, I think this is the third iteration of the T200, I think Titleist have got it spot on because they fixed all of the flaws with the previous iron. First of all, they've hidden the tech and they've delivered an overall package that looks absolutely stunning. But where this iron comes out number one is the all-round performance of it is as good as anything that I've ever tested in this category. The ball speeds are as good as anything you're going to see. The distances are right up there. Only the ping beats it in my testing. The spin rates are as good as anything in my testing and definitely one of the highest that I've seen. And you also get a really strong ball flight that can only be beaten by the Taylormade P790. So should you just go out and buy a set of these irons? Maybe, because it is a seriously impressive iron. It's also a Titleist. You get a high quality product that's going to maintain its value, and it has got a lot of bag appeal. But there are a couple of things you should consider before you do that, and let me tell you what they are. Based on that golf shot, I'm tempted to say just go out and buy a set because it is an absolutely fantastic iron. But there's two things I would say that are, whether they're cons or things to consider, they're just things I would say before you make your decision. First of all, in terms of combo setting, you can absolutely combo set this with the Titleist T350 or the Titleist T150 or the T100. However, I don't think it blends in as well with those irons compared to something like the Callaway Apex Ai200. It does definitely blend in, but just maybe not as well as the Callaway Apex Ai200 does with its counterparts. And the second thing, and I really am nitpicking here, is I personally prefer the feel of the Callaway Apex Ai200 and the feel of my Mizuno JPX923, and I've also heard that Srixon irons feel incredible too, but like I say, I've not tested them to compare. But that isn't to say this iron feels bad. It feels fantastic. I'm just saying there might be a better feeling iron on the market for you if that is something that's really, really important to you. Now, if you've gained some value out of this video and you'd like to return the favour, then all you need to do is hit that thumbs up button down below. That lets YouTube know that golfers just like you should watch this video when searching for this type of content. Equally, if you've enjoyed the video and you don't yet subscribe to the channel, then please hit that button down below, and if you ring the bell icon, you'll get notified of all my videos as they land on YouTube every single week. Equally, if you are one of my subscribers, thank you so much for your continued support. I really do appreciate it, and I certainly don't take it for granted. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day. Goodbye.